Hey, what's up, Facebook folks? It's your old pal Schmucker here, live on Center Street in the basement of Clevenger Insurance Agency. How are you doing, my friend? This is Joe Clevenger.
Doing well, doing real well.
And I always forget. I tell you, every single video I forget, and then it pops up and asks me if I want to tag you in the video. It asks me that every time, and I keep trying to remind myself, hey, hit tag. So we're going to sneak in here and tag you so that way people can see you. But video today being brought to you by Boggs Automotive at 600 Lighter Drive in Warsaw. Boggs Pit Stop as well, brand new addition to the Boggs Automotive family. They're at 1721 East Center Street. Call them 574-268-6360 to schedule your appointment, or you can find them on Facebook. The link to both is in the description for the Pit Stop and Boggs Automotive. And I'll throw Clevenger Insurance Agency the link in the description too, so folks can get to you there as well.
Appreciate that.
So hey, I do what I can. So Joe, man, tell us a little bit about you and your story, because you've got a good one.
Oh, it could go back. My story kind of goes back to first grade, and well, probably before that, but first grade is really when it started. I was diagnosed with a learning disability, and for me it was lucky because most kids don't get diagnosed that early in their life. So my first grade teacher, Mrs. Berger, who was great, picked up on that and realized something's going on, and so they started testing me. And I think I had an official diagnosis by the time I was in second grade. And when you're that young, you just don't
Have any clue?
have clue what's going on.
Yeah.
You're just kind of going with the flow. They're telling you to go, you're leaving the room, you're doing tests. They're making me put blocks and stuff together and asking you to read stuff, and you just kind of go with the flow. But as I got older, then it started becoming more like, okay, I'm different, something different about me. I'm leaving the room for a test to go take a test with an aide to help read the test to me so that I can understand what's being said, or I'm leaving the room to go take an extra half hour, miss a recess because you got to take a test, and most kids will get the test done in 20 to 30 minutes, and it's taken me an hour. So that's kind of where my, I guess, story started, from a learning disability side, and then it transferred over into high school and college, and I can kind of go into some more in-depth. I'll go surface level there to start, but that was really what started transforming me, and or I guess is kind of who I am today, and where we are today.
Yeah, and part of the reason I like the stories is because you get to see where people have come from. And in order to see where they're at now, I think it helps to understand where they've come from and maybe how hard they've worked. And those struggles, I think, are so important for people to hear and for people to know about, mainly because then they don't feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't ever want anybody out there to feel alone in a struggle or a hurt or a need. And I think people are so afraid that if others know they've hurt, they've been through struggles, had a learning disability, there's automatically like this stigma that gets put on their back. And that's kind of the purpose of the videos, is to tear down those stigmas that, hey, look, here's this super awesome guy, Joe, who started out with a learning disability, but look where the dude's at now. So, yeah. I think that it's so important to share that stuff, and I think that the stigmas have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really do.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things that I hate to even call it a learning disability, because it took me a long time to get there, to realize that it wasn't a disability, that it was actually, I call it now, a superpower. So, Clevenger Insurance, we operate as Clevenger Insurance, but our business name is Asset Superheroes. And the reason for that is because of those powers that everybody has, that I want them to come up with or come out of their shell to really show that. And, the asset side is we're protecting people's assets from an insurance standpoint. But really the superpowers is what I view our, learning disability with. And there's so many guys that are business owners that had learning disabilities, even people that you would think like, okay, this person didn't have one. I mean, Albert Einstein had a learning disability. I don't even think he could tie his shoe till he was 12. So a lot of just finding, for me, it was going and figuring out these things on my own, when I was in I hate to say, a depressed state, but I mean, there were times where you'd be depressed, like I'm a failure at this, or I'm never going to learn any of that. And you really, I had to do a lot of soul searching and digging.
Yeah. And I think somebody else wants tag there. If I had to guess, might be your mom.
Uh-oh.
That wouldn't
That'd
surprise
be trouble.
Senora, hello, how are you? If you're watching. But what's your favorite sport?
Oh boy. Well, I CrossFit. I don't know. Some people say that's not a sport. That's just extreme working out. So I enjoy that at CrossFit Haymaker. I go there. I try to get there about every day. So that's, I don't know, becoming more of a sport. From a viewership, man, I'm a die-hard IU fan. And from basketball to football, which is like being an IU football fan can be a really tough thing. It was like the Cubs for over 100 years, never winning anything, and finally getting it done. But we're still working on that with IU football. So it's tough being an IU football fan, but I'm a diehard.
Go Hoosiers. I mean, I've always been an IU fan, but probably here in the past few years, I don't with the new coach they have. I guess he's not really new anymore, but
Archie, yeah.
Archie, and I've kind of migrated more towards watching Notre Dame women's basketball.
Yeah,
as odd as that
hey,
sounds.
man, they're a team they're a championship team. So.
But I mean, I grew up an IU basketball fan, Notre Dame football fan. But I guess just the older I get, the more I love Notre Dame, just the legendary. And it's not that IU doesn't have that, but I mean, just since Bob Knight left, I've kind of, like, my IU fandom is kind of
faded. Yeah, I mean, I went to IU, so I mean that was where my diehardness comes from. And then baseball, I'm a Cubs fan, but who's not? And football, NFL, I'm a Bears guy. I love the Bears. I don't know. My dad was a Bears fan, and that kind of transferred over before, I guess, the Colts came to Indiana. They were up this way. It was all Bears. So.
Yeah, I think that's one of the neatest things too, to watch families and sports. I mean, you see the teams and who they root for gets passed down from like generation to generation and generation. It's like, well, Grandpa was a Cubs fan, great Grandpa was a Cubs fan, great Grandpa was a Cubs fan. So I love how that stuff gets passed down. Have you ever, and we've kind of talked about a few there, but have you ever had any struggles in your life?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that may be a misperception from my world is that, Joe Clevenger was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. My dad had a successful business. My mom was a school teacher and super successful at that. I mean, she helped so many people with her teaching. So a lot of people may view that, but there's a lot of struggles that I've gone through from the learning disability. I mean, I can even go to a couple instances in my life where it was like a punch in the gut. It was an econ class, senior year of high school, and I'm sitting there and I had to leave to go take this test, and a kid looked at me and he said, "What are you?" And he uses the R word. I'm not even going to use it because I hate the word so much, that you would have to leave to go take this test. That's not fair. And our good friend Luke Woodward, man, he stood right up and got in the kid's face and kind of got after him a little bit. But yeah, I might tear up a little bit because of that. But that was a tough gut punch, because you hate to be called or labeled something, and then you get labeled that, and it really works on your psyche. So it really hurts. And you have to fight through those things and work through it, and I did. And then I went to college, and I had fun. I was great. 4 years at IU, but I think I had a lot more fun than I should have, and ended up flunking out my senior year at IU. And that was another gut punch. It was me sitting, there. You get a letter, and it tells you, "Hey, you're on probation." And of course, in my mind, I'll get out of this. I can take this class. I'll do this. I'll do that, and I'll get out of this and I'll be fine. So I kind of hid it from my parents. Sorry, Mom, Dad. But then the next semester, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I was having too much fun. It was great being away. And I hate to say that, my learning disability played any part. It played some, just because I was too, when I went to college, I was too proud to be like, I need the help. I need to take extra time. I need somebody to, read through my papers, because I can write, and I can write a lot and discuss things, but grammatically, it's awful. I mean, you can read, I have to, still today, my wife reads every one of my emails if it's an important email that I send out, because grammatically, I'm just terrible at it. So, that happened, and then I had to come back home, and I'm sitting here going, okay, what am I going to do? Luckily, my dad hired me on to, again, be a lazy bum here. So I was, going through a tough time even at that time when I was working here for my first few years. Just, is this what I want to do? Is this where I want to be? I looked at other careers, of course, when you flunk out, my whole mindset at that time was, you're a loser, you're not going to be anything. You're not, you don't even have a college degree. You might as well, be just some bum on the street. Well,
hang it up.
That's not the case. There's a lot of people that have failed out of school that have gone on to be super successful. So, those are some adversities I had in my life that really, I guess, pulled on who I was as a person. And I did a lot of soul searching, probably 2 to 3 years after in working here. Reading tons of. That's when I started really reading. I never read unless I had to for school, and then I started reading up on Warren Buffett, who's icon. Everybody knows him, and he reads 8 hours a day. And I'm like, okay, this guy reads 8 hours a day. There must be something to it.
Yeah.
And then you read up on Bill Gates, again, another guy that's reading 8 to 9 hours a day. And okay, these guys are doing it for a reason. They're learning stuff. So I started doing that. Started watching YouTube videos on inspirational people. I started reading on people that had learning disabilities. I spoke a little bit about it before, but just guys that ran businesses that had learning disabilities and were successful. I mean, Steve Jobs was dyslexic, and a lot of people probably don't know that, but he was. The CEO of Cisco Systems is dyslexic, and the story with him was, he went to a first grade class, and they told him to write something on the board, and he wrote it backwards. And, the whole press and everything's around watching him, and they're like, well, you spelled that wrong. And he looked at him, and he goes, oh, yeah, I have dyslexia. And he'd even tell you today, I think I even read recently, that his biggest failure early in his life was that he wasn't up front and talked about it, because he wasn't able to help other kids that were experiencing those same things. So, yeah, I mean, there was times where it was hard, just mentally for me, going through that and then finding a way out. And again, reading, watching videos, learning how I think and who I am as a person. I mean, I've done personality profiles to, those have been huge. Who is Joe from that standpoint? How do I learn? How do I, where do I function best? And once I found that out, I realized, okay, insurance was something I wanted to do, and I had a passion for it. I loved it, mainly the business side of it. I really, really dove into that. And once I figured out what my strengths were, I was able to really grow as a person, knowing my weaknesses. I knew my weaknesses really, really well, because I had beat myself up on them so much.
Yeah.
So that was a big stepping stone in my life, was really digging into that and finding out my strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, and we've all got struggles, and I can tell you what, I've certainly had my fair share. I mean, 5-6 years ago, I was living in a hotel behind Papa John's, riding my bicycle down the road to paint the outside of this building.
That's right.
Because I had to get money to be able to pay my rent for that week. And I mean, just, and your mom was dropping off food to my house, and other people were, and I mean, just to see where I've come from, where you've come from, and I mean, I think my biggest problem was that I had this idea in my head about who I was supposed to be and how I was going to get there. And there's like, I think we're kind of all waiting for this big defining moment, like, aha, I've got there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I think that was probably what led to me and my digging farther and farther and farther and farther into the alcohol abuse, was because I kept waiting for, well, when I grow up and figure out who I want to be with my life,
Yeah.
then I'll put the bottle down and I'll quit. And the next thing you know, you got a bad habit. But I think in your story, so relatable to so many people that, I mean, I don't know how. I think I would have been remiss not to sit down and have you share it with everybody out there. And not to mention, you guys got this like super duper cool studio down here, so it makes us look like we're really professional, and people don't understand. It's literally a $20 Amazon tripod and an iPhone and these fancy $15 lapel mics
that works.
plug into the headphone jack on the iPhone. But I don't think you need to be fancy. And
Yeah, and I mean, I think in today's society, and I talked a little bit about this with you earlier, is especially with social media, is we want to portray ourselves as this perfect, family. You see the picture on Facebook at the beach with the family running or playing, and it's like, oh, this is great, but they don't show before that, the kid, fighting with them to get their swimsuit on, or the one kid hitting the other kid with the shovel before, throwing sand in his face. Those are the things that we try to hide in today's world, and we want to portray ourselves as this better than, we're great, we have a perfect life, when in reality a lot of us have struggles, and we're all struggling with something. We all have demons inside of us that we're fighting against, and that's where a lot of my self-reflection came from, is just digging into those, and then finding out why I thought that about myself. So that was a huge part of it. And my mom, she's probably sitting here cringing because I'm talking about flunking out of college, and she didn't, that to her was a bad image. But in reality, it's part of my story. It's who I am. It's what makes me the Joe Clevenger today. And had I not done that, I don't think I would be where I am today. Yesterday she said, Joe, you could have just came back and I would have sent you to Grace College. I said, but would I be working or selling insurance? Would I be with my wife today? Would I have my 3 kids today? That whole story would have changed. So, God had a plan, and we just, we got to follow that kind of plan on where we are. So
we often tend to get off the beaten path when it comes to sticking to God's plan, but He's always got a way of things working out.
Yeah, and I mean, that's another, I guess I didn't even bring up that side of it. So my wife and I, we struggled for a long time on having kids. That was really, really tough for us. We don't, we had miscarriages, and but before we got married, we had discussed that thing. Well, the issues we would have. Okay, if you can't have kids, the priest, we were lucky that we had, brought that up. Joe, if you can't have kids, what's that going to look like? What are you going to do? And from the get-go, we've always said we would adopt. And so when we had those struggles, we looked back and we said, okay, this was from the beginning. We said, we were going to adopt if that happened, and we were lucky enough to adopt 3 kids through foster care. And you want to talk about a humbling experience or God's plan? I mean, that was it. I mean, we put in for foster care that we wanted a boy between the ages of 5 and 12, and we get a phone call for 2 girls that are 1 and 2. So it's like, oh crap, this wasn't what we wanted, but hey, we're going to go and we're going to interview. And we interviewed for the 2 girls, and when we're there, they said, hey, there's a 3rd on the way. Are you guys interested in taken him. Of course, at that point, I was like, oh, it's a boy. Great. Yes. Finally get a boy out of this. So that path, I mean, that was eye-opening. And you want to talk about God's plan. I mean, we're sitting there at the beginning thinking, oh, okay, we're going to get a boy between the ages of 5 and 12. And it completely reverses into, no, you're going to get two girls, 1 and 2, and a newborn baby boy. So,
well, it takes a special kind of heart to do any kind of foster care or to take care of the children. And I know, talking with Julie Tuinstra last night, and their foster parents as well, and just to see their story, and I can't tell you, it's I don't know if I'm surprised, but to hear the amount of couples that struggle with infertility or whatever surrounds that. I mean, I think you're probably maybe the 4th or 5th person that I've sat down that has shared that struggle. And it's like there's so many like unplanned pregnancies out there, and you kind of forget that there's people trying with everything they have to have a child together. And I think it's
yeah, and I mean, I won't speak too much for my wife, but there is sometimes when we would be resentful. You see somebody walking around and they're pregnant, and you can just tell, like, it was just whoops, that happened. And you're like, gosh, this lady's smoking a pack of cigarettes and drinking all kinds of crazy, doing stupid stuff, and you're like, why can't that be us? We're healthy and good people, or not. I'm not saying they're not good people, but like healthy and trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle, and we're struggling with it. But at the end of the day, it was just not part of our plan.
Yeah,
we had to
and I
change that.
The things that would go along with that too. I mean, you think about maybe the insecurities your wife would have if she's seen all of her friends having babies, and then a man would probably maybe even feel a little emasculated, I would think. This is what men are supposed to do, and yet, but the stuff that would surround that, I can't, working through that, but it's so cool to see the blessing in the children that you guys have gotten in the meantime, and God's always got a plan.
Oh yeah, we're thankful every day that they fell into our lap. It was just when we were into it, that wasn't the plan, and it was like, oh, we're gonna create our own plan on this. We're gonna do the way we want it done, and he threw a nice curveball at us. So.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, these videos are a prime example in my life of God taking things in a direction that I wasn't really planning on things going. I kind of just started out one week just doing these, and I told you about it. I'd message you like, hey, I got this series I'm going to do, and it's like every time I keep trying to scale it back and maybe short the videos a little bit, they seem to get longer and longer and longer, and these people just, folks and their stories just kind of fall in my lap.
Yeah.
I really don't have to hunt that hard or go too far to find somebody with a really good story, and people reach out. And if you do have a good story or know somebody, by all means, have them get a hold of me, and I'll be glad to sit down with them.
We do our local legends. We really write those up, and the reason for it is everybody has a story. Everybody has something to talk about. We call them local legends. Everybody's a legend in some way. We wanted to hear those stories, and that's what's kind of cool about this is you're doing a similar thing here with the interviews, so it's awesome.
I think it's awesome. So
it is awesome.
How have you and how do you overcome the adversity in your life?
That's a lot of self-reflection, a lot of just reviewing where I've been, thinking daily about, what can I do better? How did I fail today? One of my big things is what I even preach to our team is failing forward. If we're not failing, we're not trying. I think I posted I posted last night a picture of, people are afraid to, are fearful or of failure or fearful of this, but failure to me is a good thing. I want us to fail because we can learn from that. if we're not trying new things and doing different things, we're afraid to, that basically we're afraid to fail. So I preach it to our team here, preach it to my kids every day. I mean, when we're sitting at the dinner table, that's one thing I always ask is, what did you struggle with today? How did you fail today? And then they'll tell me. I say, okay, what can we do tomorrow so we don't have that repeat? And it's looking at those types of things and saying, okay, how can I fix this? How can I do better? And I love read. I mean, I love to read now. I used to hate to read. It was like a nemesis because I was slow, and then they were making you read stuff that you didn't like in school, and it was just like, this is so boring, and it took me forever. A kid that may read a chapter in 5 minutes is going to take me 15, 20. Now it's at my own pace, and I read every day for hours or a couple hours. And then I watch a lot of YouTube videos. Tom Bilyeu with Impact Theory. I don't know if you've ever watched him before, but he's one of my favorite people to watch.
T-O-M?
Yep, T-O-M, Bilyeu.
B-I-L-Y?
Yep, Y-E-U.
Y-E-U.
Yep, and it's Impact Theory. And he does similar videos. I mean, he's talking with, like Seth Godin and David Goggins. And if you're looking up David Goggins, I apologize. He's an extremely vulgar person. But Goggins is one of those guys, man, that I've been reading his book. I watch his stuff, and you want to talk about a guy that's insane. That guy is crazy when it comes to extreme stuff. I mean, he had so much adversity and he was beat down. I mean, he was from Brazil, Indiana, is where he grew up, and he was a Navy SEAL. He went through BUD/S 3 times, which BUD/S going through it one time is hard enough, but he went through it 3 times, and you're talking about a guy that's just on a different level mentally. He's there, but again, I'll preface that by every other word's the F word out of his mouth. So,
well, I mean, former Navy SEAL. I mean, the term "swear like a sailor" didn't just come about.
But, I mean, though, Tom's one of those guys. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. I listen to Gary Vee, again, a guy that'll cuss a few times, but he's got a good story. Talks a lot about his struggles in life too. So just reading, listening to videos, and constantly trying to learn and improve myself. That's huge for me. And then just the self-reflection. I always try to self-reflect on my day. Even in the mornings, I'll get a cup of coffee, I'll read, and I'll reflect on what I want to accomplish that day. And I preach it to our team. When we hire people, I tell them I hire people better than me. I don't want to hire somebody that's not the same or same level as me or not as good as me. Every one of my team members is better than me. I'm terrible at customer service. I'm awful at it. And so all the team members up there that do customer service, they know that, and they'll be like, hey, yeah, Joe, let me take that off your plate because I know that the way you're going to do it's going to be awful. So, just knowing those things has really helped.
That's great. I love it. I love customer service too, by the way. I'm not all that great at it. I never really have been, but it's something that, I don't know, I guess being kind of an extroverted personality, I love talking to people.
Oh, yeah.
I love sitting down with people. It's like, hey, how can I help you? And then you get that person that's like, well, have a nice day. It's like, well, you go on to the next guy. But, so who or what inspires and encourages you?
Oh, it's actually it's an easier question than most. My wife is probably my biggest inspiration. I mean, she pushes me every day. She just kicks my butt sometimes. But she's also a huge encourager. I mean, there's not a time where I'll come to her and be like, hey, I have an idea. And she'll look at me and be like, no, you're not doing it. It'll be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's try it. Let's go jump forward into it. And that's huge for me because I'm an ideas person. I will come up with 800 ideas in a day, and she helps me filter through those and say, well, maybe we need to direct it over here or redirect it over there. But she's a huge encouragement too. I mean, she will, if I say, hey, this is what I got planned. You know, you're gonna kill it. You know, today I was like, oh, I'm gonna meet with Josh. I'm gonna talk to him, you know, on video. She's like, oh, you're gonna do great. You'll be so good. I'm so happy. You know, and even when we came down, she's like, I want to watch it. So she's been a huge encouragement. She inspires me every day. She's like a workaholic too. I mean, she will work circles around me. So she's a big inspiration. My mom and dad, great inspirations as well. Same with my brother and sister. I mean, my family is huge to encouraging, inspiring me to be a better person. And then I listed some of the guys that I listen to and talk to. I'll even go even further on that with just insurance agents. I have a group of insurance agent friends, you know, that I talk to weekly, if not daily. You know, it's one of my shirts here. It says Better Together. There's a group of us that's on IAOA. It's a Facebook group that's private for insurance agency owners. And I'm on there talking to people. I reach out to other insurance agents and I talk to them. And there's some really, some insurance agents that I just look up to and admire a lot. And they encourage me every day when I'm on the phone with them talking about an idea. Dude, Joe, go do it. You know, let's how are you going to tackle this? And we work through the problem. So I have a huge support system that I rely on, and I think everybody needs to find those people that they can rely on and support them.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. It's probably the second time I've said this week, and I'd say a lot, but I mean, we are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So, I mean, surrounding yourselves with people that are positive, that are encouraging, that are going to help you become the best version of yourself. Not the best version of them, but the best version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had to, like back early on in sobriety, so people just had to go. I mean,
that'd be a question I would have had for you is like, how many people did you have to eliminate out of your circle to really help with, you know, where you are today?
And the not probably so ironic thing about that was the people that wanted to be there through it. I mean, they just popped up like dandelions do this time of the year in your yard.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that didn't want to be there, they weren't, and they still aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And I have absolutely nothing against them, but I mean, I'm a firm believer that everybody serves a purpose at a certain time in our lives, and God puts people in our lives at certain times for specific reasons. Sometimes they're there for, I mean, I've got friends from high school that all through school we were really good friends,
mm-hmm.
but to say that I've talked to them in the last 10 to 15 years, I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we spend a lot of time in those formative years like relying so heavily on what our friends think, and everything we do is based off of what they think. And then you get out of high school and it's like, what now?
Yeah.
So I mean, you end up going to college,
mm-hmm.
maybe not doing so well and flunking out of school. Or you got somebody like myself that never even went, that took a year off, and it's like, well, I'll wait a year and then I'll go. Well, a year is now turned into 20,
mm-hmm.
and I still haven't went. But I think each person can be successful in their own right with the God-given talent and gifts that they have.
Yeah, and you know, I'm a big believer, even with today's societies, that we all don't need to go to college to be successful or build a business or view ourselves as a successful person in life. And you know, I know a lot of people that didn't go to college, and I look up to them a lot. And you know, that to me, I think our society's really pushed the college experience, and I think it's starting to hurt some of our society because of that. So I mean, since your sobriety, I mean, look how much success you've had. I mean, this has gone big. You're reaching lots of people,
Yeah.
And it didn't take a college degree for you to do it.
No, just like I said, the iPhone and the $20 Amazon tripod.
And a passion. I mean,
And
that's
passion,
the thing.
that's
I mean,
the
that's
biggest
the
thing.
biggest thing that I see from you is your passion to help, the passion to want to help other people, and that's huge. And if you don't have that, that's where you kind of falter.
And it's just a passion for Warsaw, Northern Indiana. I mean, wherever. That's just, I want people to understand that there's a whole lot of cool people out there.
There is.
And it might be somebody that you meet that might be a little down on their luck at this point in time in their life, but you know what? I mean, I was there. I was that guy walking through town in the middle of winter with a sleeping bag and a backpack full of clothes, sleeping in the woods behind the Ramada Inn for a couple of weeks because a lot of it was pride, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it was anger, and I mean, reaching out to people when I could, like, hey, can I sleep on your couch? Well, no, because I had a horrible drinking problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's where, too, that I think I want to bring the awareness to a lot of people. You get that bitterness and that anger, and then the deeper you get that hurt, the more you turn to the alcohol or
Yep.
the drugs. And the more you turn to the alcohol and drugs, the more friends kind of disappear and family kind of disappears. So that hurt that's down in here just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so you just self medicate
Mm-hmm.
because it's the only thing that numbs the pain. But it comes, you have to, once you get that breaking point, which I mean, I did back August 7th, 2016, I was just like, you know what? I've got more potential than that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of, that is the passion and the premise and the purpose for the videos is that to get past that hurt and that pain or that learning disability that you had or the flunking out of college that, you know what? I had it. But look what it's taught me
Mm-hmm.
and equipped me with the experiences to be able to be where I'm at today. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I want people to know is that you might be going through a wilderness period now, but it's equipping you with experiences that are going to help you at another point in time.
Absolutely. I mean, the college experience helped me. Um, there's a insurance class at the CIC, and there, I think 60% of people fail each test, and there's 5 tests. And after I knew what my problems were, I went and did the CIC, which is kind of like a master's degree in insurance, and I didn't fail any of the tests. I passed every single one of them first time, and that was big for me. That was like a huge ego booster when you want to talk about like, hey, I flunked out of school, but then I did the CIC where there's a 60% fail rate when you take the first test, and I passed every single one of the 5 first tests. So it was learning from my past and saying, I know what caused my failures, and I'm not going to allow it to happen again this time. So that was for me a big thing too.
That's awesome. And speaking of insurance, I know the Clevenger Insurance Agency is growing by leaps and bounds. And you guys, I think, have bought a couple other places, maybe.
Mm-hmm. A couple agencies, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that and tell us how you're growing.
We have an aggressive growth plan, mainly because we're passionate about what we do. I spoke about earlier the asset superheroes, and I transfer that over to our team. Our team, I want them to believe that what we're selling and what we're doing is helping people. We want to help everybody as much as we can, and they get that, and they bought into it, and we've built a culture around that. The team members I have up there, I'll say it again, man, they're better than me. They work around me in circles, and I appreciate that. That's what we want to hire, but main reason why is because I know that they're going to go out and they're going to help the community. We love the community we live in. You say you love Warsaw. I love Warsaw too. It's a great place to live, and I don't think a lot of people, especially high schoolers out there, are like, oh, I want to get out of Warsaw. I want to go live somewhere else. But this community is awesome, and we've built our agency around the community, but we're building it in other communities too. We want to help other communities the same way. We have an agency up in Elkhart now, and we're trying to team up with them and the Elkhart community and really build around that community as well. And it's just our passion for helping people. We want to help people. When there's a loss, we're the ones that have to be there to help them rebuild. If there's a house fire, we're not going to put the fire out. We're not going to rebuild the house, but we're going to be able to provide the money to do that. And that's what we have to, as insurance agents, have to understand is, we have a bigger job than just to sell an insurance policy. So we're, that's, I think a lot of our success is behind that, just because we really believe that we are doing something greater than just selling a policy to get a, you know, a commission check. So
Yeah, and that's, I mean, insurance is one of those things where you pay it every month, and then you never use it, and then you never use it, and then you never use it. And it's like, why am I spending all this money for something I never use? And then you do, and it's like,
yeah,
that's why.
yeah, and I mean, there's been so many experiences with, you know, we've had a house fire where the lady, you know, I show up and it's the day before graduation, and her daughter's cap and gown were destroyed, and you know, I'm running to the high school to try to get her another cap and gown so she can go to graduation. And to me, that's more important than
Yeah.
making the money. I want to make sure she can still experience that high school graduation with a cap and gown, and not be walking out there in, you know, t-shirt or, you know, dress clothes. And so that was a big one for me, and understanding why we do what we do and how important it is to the community as a whole.
Yeah, and I mean, there's the old saying, you know, it takes a village, but I mean, I firmly believe it, and I love the small business. And I mean, this week's sponsor, you got Boggs Automotive, who took over for when Butch Boggs passed away, and now the Sylvia's family is having some health struggles, so they have stepped in and bought Boggs Pit Stop. And I mean, it's all the family-run organizations that this town is built on, and I love. And I mean, when I say love, I mean, man, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love seeing the growth and seeing the success that Clevenger Insurance is having. And you guys have such a good family. And I mean, from your dad, Jerry, and your mom, Shirley, and sister Katie, and John, your brother. And it's like, I mean, it's almost kind of like a part of my family, you know. I mean, I love those guys.
Yeah.
But so, have you always seen yourself, I mean, being where you are today?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I mean, you go back and I mean, my struggles. It was, you know, what am I gonna? You know, will I be successful? What is success? That was a big one for me to really dig into. Was what is success? What do I view as success? And once I figured that out for myself, that really helped. I mean, we have bigger. I mean, I have huge goals on where I want to be and what I want to do and what I can do for the community here, and we're still striving for those every day. So, you know, I still don't view myself as a success because I still haven't hit my goals on what I think I can do for this community, and my wife can do for this community, and our kids can do. So, we still have a lot that we're working for, and every day we try to do that.
Yeah, it's, I mean, those goals, and I love seeing people hit them. I love that the comeback story, and some of these are comeback stories. Some of them are in the midst of a comeback, and I mean, I like to consider myself in the midst of a comeback.
Yeah,
I mean,
not there yet.
I'm getting ready to have back surgery 2 weeks from today, as a matter of fact, and dealing with probably a negative side of insurance with workers' comp.
Mm-hmm.
And what people don't understand is, it's like, yeah, I mean, I get paid, but while I'm on the workers' comp, doing a job like furniture delivery, of course, with a back injury,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not able to do it. So, being such another small family-run business in Reinhold's, I mean, they had to fill that position. So, it leaves me, I don't want to say unemployed, but I'm not able to go out and get another job until the workers' compensation claim is done. Doctor says you're 100% clear.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's kind of where the birth of these videos started. I'm like, okay, so I've got this free time on my hands, so let's put it to some good use.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we see those obstacles, and it kind of puts us in a hole. So we get down in that hole and we take that negative view of things, rather than see the good that we can take advantage of, like all the free time. I mean, I probably never would have been able to sit down with you had I been working an average, normal, say 9 to 5 job. I mean, it wouldn't have happened, because with a wife and 3 kids and 2 dogs and work, I mean, that time just isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I highly encourage any of you out there. I mean, if you're in a situation like that, use time to your advantage, not to your disadvantage, and don't beat yourself up over it. God's got a plan, and I firmly believe it. Might not see it right now,
Yep.
but might be retraining you.
Yeah, you
for,
might end up with 3 kids. You never know.
Yeah, like this guy. So, what do you, your wife, and your kids enjoy doing in your spare time?
Oh man, we have a pontoon boat up on Webster, and in the summer that's where we want to be. We want to be on the lake, and they love to swim and float around, and that's fun to us. They love they love outside. I mean, my kids are outdoor kids. They go to Washington STEM school, and everything's theirs, like nature, and so we go out and we see those things, and they have to tell us. Last night Emma, my middle child, was, "Oh, Daddy, we learned about frogs. Okay, tell me about frogs." And well, they start from an egg, and they have this sack around them that protects. I mean, they go into in-depth stuff. So when we're out, they love to find those things, and I can't tell you how many times I've had to yell at them to like take the spider back outside that they captured, or they're bringing ants in the house because they find them. So anytime we can get out and see zoo and animals and things like that, they love it. So that's we enjoy that. We have our family time with those activities.
Yeah, family is so important, and we love doing that kind of stuff too. And my kids, they're video gamers.
Yeah,
they love that screen time.
Oh man, ours do too. The Switch, it comes out on, and they want to pull that thing out every day. The first thing my son says when he wakes up in the morning is, "Dad, can I play a Switch?" No, it's put away. So we've actually had to start some different things where they can earn money based off of chores and activities. They are earning a buck for in the morning, a buck in the afternoon. May change that up a little bit, but then they have to buy screen time. So for 15 minutes is $1 during the week. On the weekends they can, we can monitor it because we're doing other activities, but they can have more screen time without paying the $1. But during the week they owe me $1 for every 15 minutes that they want to use.
I like that idea. Maybe I'll have to use it myself.
Yeah, it works great because they really start thinking about their dollars. And I'm actually now talking with my wife. I want to put in a tax, just because we all get taxed on our income. So I might throw a tax in there of $1 or something for them. So then they really have to think about how they're going to spend their money.
That's a good way to prepare. I really like that idea. Now that you throw that out there, my wheels are turning. You probably can't see them there, but I do rather enjoy that, and I don't think there's a parent out there that doesn't have to deal with kids being addicted to screens. I mean, they spend so much time on it. So you and your wife work together, which I know there's probably people that would cringe at spending that much time with their spouse, but I mean, how does that affect your relationship?
I mean, I think our relationship's great because of it. I don't know what I would do. Sorry, I've tangled myself up here somehow. I don't know what I would do throughout the day without her. I mean, we talk. I mean, our business. A lot of people say their hobby is, with hobbies with their wife. We ski, we do this. Well, ours is the business, and we talk it a lot. And I don't know. It would be hard not to have her as a partner in the business, because she understands all aspects of it. If I go home and I'm complaining about XYZ, she knows how XYZ is a problem. If she's complaining to me, I understand it. One thing, my dad and my mom would, my dad would come home and sit at the dinner table, and my mom would say, "Hey, how was work?" And he'd say, "Fine." And she'd say, "Okay, well, tell me about it." And he'd go on to a problem. Well, she wouldn't understand that. Or same vice versa. She would tell him about a student, and he wouldn't understand that. So in our world, we understand it completely, and we have a great relationship. I don't know how I would survive without her here at the office. That's who I talk to a lot when it comes to stuff. So, and we have a great working relationship. We have a great marriage because of it. One of our challenges that we're really, really working on is how can we find other things outside of the work world to grow and to become, better husband and wife outside of work. Because at some point, we're either going to want to sell or retire or do something. And, I don't want us to be like looking back going, well, what are we going to do? Sitting around going, man, we can't talk about insurance anymore. So we're really going to focus on trying to find other things outside of the insurance world, even though that'll probably still drive a majority of our discussions and talk. But our kids do too. I mean, they have difficulties like every other kid, so we have to discuss those a lot as well.
Yeah, and the older we get, the more gray.
Yeah.
We tend
Starts
to get,
getting in my hair here. My mom
I try and trim mine out.
Yeah.
And I wear a hat because I'm kind of getting a little thin. But anyway.
Mine's on the side. It's getting there. And that's what I keep saying.
It's
not like my dad, though. I still have it up top. I haven't lost any up top yet. He's lost all his up there, but I'm lucky in that regards. That's my mom's genetics on that side, I guess.
Hey, you gotta love Shirley. Well, so I think the last thing I'd want to talk about here with you, and we would be remiss if we didn't, but you're an avid fisherman.
Yes.
So I mean, you love to fish. It's a huge part in what you do. And so tell us a little bit about fishing.
Man, it started when I was little. I would go to southern Indiana to visit my grandparents. My grandma and grandpa lived in Madison, Indiana, and they had and my aunt and uncle lived down there too. My uncle was a big fisherman, loved to fish, and they had a pond. And so at the young age, I was always fishing in that pond, trying to catch. They had, there's giant catfish in there. Of course, we're always trying to catch the biggest catfish we can. My brother and I think one time we even caught it and took the pole into the water. And, of course, for us, it's probably today's world is probably like this big of a catfish, but in our mind, it was as big as we were. And so, that kind of got me hooked into fishing. And then as I got older, I just kept doing it. It's a place to relax, clear your mind. I mean, it's just you and a fishing boat and a fishing pole. And you're really, there's hours where you may go by and not catch anything, and you're just waiting for that thump. And when you get it, oh my gosh, your heart spikes. You get that answer, you're running to the edge of the boat to try to grab it. So it's just that excitement from fishing. It's just, there's not much outside of that gives me that much excitement. It's the weight, Golf, I played a lot of golf. It was always, when you're a golfer, you're always hitting the ball or doing something, and I love to golf. But fishing, it was always that when is it going to hit? When are you going to catch that big one? Or are you just going to catch the little guy and throwing them back?
I think when the pun, probably unintended by you, but it said it got you hooked.
Yeah.
But fishing requires such a tremendous amount of patience.
It does.
And I think in life requires a tremendous amount of patience. And there was a purpose and a reason why when Jesus chose his disciples that they were fishermen. Because I think that he knew they would understand the patience in the waiting, in the long periods of time, and that sometimes you're going to throw your net out there and you're not going to get anything. But you got to persevere and keep going. And so, I think Jesus had a purpose and a reason for why he did that.
Yeah, and my daughter, she's hooked, that's your pun there, but I got her into it at a young age too. She put a bobber on the pole and she caught one fish, and now if we're at the lake, man, she wants to have her fishing pole into the, out there. And she always is trying to catch the big fish. Last year she caught her first bass. Nice. And her smile on her face was just contagious. So, that was exciting to see. And now she'll tell you the story 100 times if you ask her. Of course the fish grows.
Oh,
she's learning how to become a fisherman. So
are you a catch and release?
Yeah, I am. We're catch and release. We don't eat them, but sometimes we do. If we're at my aunt and uncle's or my grandparents, we'll catch them and fillet them. just because you got to keep population in control. So.
Alrighty, Joe. I appreciate you sitting
thank
down,
you.
man.
Yep, thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me on the show.
I think it was a great story, and I hope others out there enjoyed it as much as I did sitting here listening to it. And again, we'll remind you these videos this week being brought to you and made possible by Boggs Automotive at 600 Leiter Drive in Warsaw, or Boggs Pit Stop at 1721 East Center Street, just down the road here from Clevenger Insurance. Just head east, and it'll be on your left-hand side. You can call Boggs Automotive 574-268-6360 to schedule the appointment for your vehicle today, or just stop into the pit stop for an oil change, and they're starting to do some small repairs there too as well. You can find them on Facebook. Link is in the description. I'll also put the link to Clevenger Insurance in the description. I don't have it there yet, but the glory of Facebook is I can edit. So join me next week, Monday, or Sunday evening. I'll announce the list of everybody I have next week, and I've got a really, really, really good list of people. I mean, every week is good, but next week I'm excited. I mean, when I say I'm super excited to sit down with people,
it's good.
I don't think that comes through enough, and I think probably people might get tired of hearing it, but I get super excited about sitting down with people. I mean, I really do. But you guys take care. Hopefully that sun's going to come out. Have a fantastic Friday, and I will see you guys on Monday.